in the interest of time, let's get started. Again, my name is David Davies, and I am the outreach coordinator for the Southwest Light Rail project that covers the Minneapolis segment of the project. I want to welcome you to our Southwest LRT update for the Bryn Mawr community, and also want to kind of extend those that invitation or that welcome to folks outside of the immediate Bryn Mawr community. I know we've covered some of our outreach to North Kenwood as well, and for anyone who's not a part of those communities, you are also welcome. It's a cheap entertainment tonight. So we will get started with our presentation. I'm going to cycle through a couple meeting logistics slides, but first I want to just acknowledge a few people on the call tonight. I'm cycling through our participant list, and excuse me if I miss anyone, but just want to note that we have our Met Council Chair Charlie Zelli with us tonight. Chair, thank you for joining us. And we also have members of our project office staff. We have from our design team, Ryan Kronzer, from our outreach team, Sophia Guinness, from our construction team, Andy Collum, and of course our project director, Jim Alexander, is with us. I'll be kind of running through some parts of the presentation, but it'll be kind of a tag team effort here, especially as we get into Q&A. Jim will be handling a few slides, kind of bouncing back and forth here as we work through things. I just wanted to, Chair Zelli, did you want to say anything before we get started?
Thanks, David. I just say hello. I'm see a lot of familiar faces and neighbors, and I just want to thank everybody for coming to this town hall, and we're doing a number of them. This is closer to home for me, and I think that David and the team here at the project has really done a great job at keeping in touch with what the status of the project is, and that's what this is all about. So if you have any other questions, you know how to find David or me. Please reach out. I really appreciate your patience. This is a big project. In fact, it's the biggest project in Minnesota ever, and it's complicated, and it doesn't always follow its schedule exactly. So I think these constant contact is, I've heard, pretty helpful. It is a disruptive project, but I think it's going to be all worth it once we get through it. And I know that what I hear and what I appreciate is just having as few surprises as possible and kind of understanding the scope and the schedule, and as well as we know it. So, David, nice job. Thank you. And I'll be listening in like everybody else. Thanks.
Thank you, Chair. I'll just get started with a couple logistics here. Just here's our quick agenda, but essentially we want to give you a few slides on, of course, for anyone who is joining us for the first time. I think a lot of folks have been engaged for quite a while, but just in case, give you a quick overview and also a quick recap of 2020 construction. This kind of follows our general outline of our Minneapolis town hall that we held in January, but this will kind of condensing those slides and moving into the 2021 construction overview that's kind of centered more on this the Bryn Mawr station area, this community area, and we are going to leave some time here for Q&A. So if we can just mute your mic when you're not speaking, please. And if you are having audio-visual issues, if you're having trouble understanding me, certainly let me know, but you may want to turn off your video. That might help with your bandwidth, and close other browsers, not this browser window, but other applications like Teams or Zoom or other things like that if you have them open. And for both folks in attendance tonight and those who are not able to join us, we are recording this meeting, and it'll be posted on the public involvement page of the Southwest Light Rail website, kind of where we've posted other town halls and project updates recently, and we'll make sure to promote that as after the meeting concludes. All right, thanks for your patience on that. Well, that's just wanted to, recap that we're aiming for about 20 to 30-minute presentation. You are welcome to start to enter any questions that you have in the chat now, and you can do that, or you can wait till the end and we can try to call on folks as we go. You can also use in the WebEx feature, if you kind of go over to your participant list, highlighting, or your window, your video window, and highlighting your name, there's a like hand raise button that you can do, and you will go to the top of my like list. I'm raising my hand in my participant list right now, so you might be able to see that. Don't worry about that if that's a little complicated. We'll figure it out and we'll try to get as many questions answered as possible. All right. So a lot of folks are familiar with these first slides, but we always like to remind people of what we're doing here. This is the Southwest Light Rail project, which is an extension of the Metro Green Line. It's a 14.5-mile route extension with 16 stations. And we always want to focus on the fact that in connecting and building this out, you're not just providing a single seat trip to downtown Minneapolis along the route, but this is a single seat ride that continues to the U of University of Minnesota and St. Paul as well. Of course, connecting into the Blue Line in downtown Minneapolis to make those connections to the airport and Mall of America. We are focusing on the Bryn Mawr area tonight. Certainly, if you have questions, feel free about other areas, other topics, put them in the chat. If we don't get to those tonight, we're going to focus on Bryn Mawr and construction, but if we don't get to everything, we certainly can follow up. But this is kind of where we're headed here with the Bryn Mawr station, which is one of the stations along the line. It's in between the West 21st station, just to the south, and near East Cedar Lake Beach, and then to the east, or north, if you will, northeast, the Bassett Creek Valley Station at Van Wyck Boulevard. Couple images here. I think a lot of folks have seen these renderings, but it's good to just show that one of the station, the actual station itself is at grade down kind of in the core rail corridor there, but one of the unique features for the Bryn Mawr station is the pedestrian bridge, the access using elevator and stairs, and a pedestrian overpass over light rail and freight rail to connect into kind of the Wayzata Boulevard, Penn Avenue intersection there. And you can kind of see in the background here the pedestrian bridge, that kind of crosshatched building. That is a very unique function, and it's certainly something that we'll kind of touch on today in terms of progress for construction. A couple more views. This just shows you an angle from the platform, entering the platform, and you can see off to the left side of that screen there, for those that are on a computer, the pedestrian bridge as well. And to the right, you see one of the light rail tracks and light rail on those tracks. This is just one more view that we have that kind of shows you the intersection of kind of that Penn and Wayzata, which includes the passenger drop-off. This is a station that has a passenger drop-off area. If I go kind of quickly back here, it's kind of small, but if you see the yellow line is the pedestrian overpass, and it connects into that white kind of half moon shape, which is the sidewalk and passenger drop-off area. So folks are able to come and get out of like the main through traffic to get on 394 in order to pick up and drop off light rail passengers. Just wanted to also include kind of the station to the east there, the Bassett Creek Valley Station, which has a connection into the Loose Line trail. Also has kind of that vertical circulation elevator and stairs into the Van Wyck Boulevard bridge to allow for accessibility there. Right now, you may have seen this slide if you saw us at the town hall. We're right in the thick of things. Early on, the project really focused on the working on utilities, excavation or relocation of utilities, which is a major haul. We have a lot of utilities along the line, and of course, the preparation of the site. We are right in the thick of those construction activities that are certainly for some folks most disruptive, but also kind of the meat of the project with building out structures, track, and stations. You know, as folks know, this is the kind of the part of the project where things start to rise from the ground, and we're really starting to see in certain places big structures like bridges and buildings start to take shape at this time. Excuse me one second while there we go, doing a little. I will, and just as don't feel offended if I periodically, if you see your icon go to mute. Sometimes when I hear some noise, I'll just hit. I have a kind of a mute button for everybody in case we have some background noise, just to keep things rolling. All right, so just a brief recap of 2020. I think a lot of folks know about our major milestone of receiving the full funding grant agreement, which locked in the federal funding for the project on last September 14. And overall, as a project, we reached 35% completion in 2020, which is certainly a big deal. As you go out west, you can see evidence of that when on the western side of the project, where you see a lot of bridges and pieces of infrastructure taking shape, as we were talking about earlier. And with that, a lot of big milestones in completing utility work, which is a significant task that was put ahead of the project to coordinate with both public and private utilities to get that work done, so we can work on the rest of the project. We have a number of stations under construction, and as I mentioned, a lot of bridge structures are also under construction or complete. I think we mentioned at the town hall that one of those in Minneapolis is the freight bridge over the Cedar Lake Channel. Right now, over at the channel, the LRT bridge is the next structure under construction. So that's just a very quick recap. If folks have questions, we can certainly get to them about anything that occurred in 2020, but want to focus on 2021 and what's ahead of us here for Southwest Light Rail. And I'm going to actually turn, just to kick us off here, I'm going to turn it over to Jim Alexander just for the next few slides that talk about kind of some of the news that we've had recently regarding Southwest Light Rail construction. And Jim, I can just cycle through as you talk, okay?
All right, David, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, good evening, everyone. Got a couple items I want to talk about that are really facing us with challenges on our schedule on the project, and you've probably been hearing about that out in the arena. The first relates to the Kenilworth Tunnel and Secant Wall, and what we, as we've been putting in the sheet piling, pressing those in along the whole tunnel segment, which is now completed, we had experienced some settlement, and that was primarily due to some large boulders and just the density of the soil that we encountered. And we had to do some extra measures to get those sheets into the ground, and because of that, it caused some settlement adjacent to the sheets. And I don't know if you all remember, but when we were looking at the tunnel, we're right next to some buildings, the formerly the Calhoun Isles condominium, now Cedar Isles condominium building, and parking structure very close to those structures. And we decided, just out of abundance of caution, that we wanted to come up with a different way of what's called supportive excavation to build the tunnel. And so we come up with this secant wall option that we're pursuing for about a 500-foot segment on the south end of the tunnel next to those buildings. And we believe that's going to be a better system to limit the settlement and prevent any movement of the adjacent structures. But because of that, it has disrupted the contractor's sequencing of doing the tunnel. And so we are right in the middle of working with the contractor to get a change order on that on the secant wall to get that inserted into the project, and also looking at resequencing the construction of the tunnel. So I know a lot of questions out there about, what's the delay going to be? How much it's going to cost? We're working on that right now, so we don't have numbers at this juncture, but we will be able to get those fleshed out over the coming months here. The other issue, okay, here's a visual. Maybe Pat, maybe go back to 17 there. Thanks, David. So that's it just shows the location of that where that's located. Again, the south end, about a 500-foot section on the east side of the tunnel, and the overall tunnel is about 2,500 feet in length, thereabouts. So maybe go to the next slide. The other challenge, I think maybe more of an interest for this group, is the quarter protection wall. We have to extend the quarter protection barrier that we have. We had some in place in the original plans, but based on our agreements with BNSF, we had to extend that. Now, this isn't really necessarily a surprise, but at the time we went through bidding on this civil construction contract, we were still going through environmental review. And so we couldn't put that into the construction contract documents until environmental review was done. That has now been completed, and we have to add this as a change order. And so as we've been doing that, we've been talking with the contractor about how that gets inserted into the project. And we're seeing that this is going to cause some delay similar to the secant. And it's also going to be additional costs, of course, because we're building additional feature here. Here again, we don't have those numbers lined out yet. We're working with the contractor on both the schedule and the costs of these items. But one thing I want to point out, Dave will have a couple of slides on this. I think there were some questions about, all the good work was done back in, I think, 2017 with the aesthetics of what's this wall going to look like. We really haven't changed anything in our plans for that. That's maintained. And we can talk about that as we get to those slides as we progress here. But I think the next slide just shows the location of that, essentially the area we're talking about between Bryn Mawr and essentially 94 there as it crosses over the alignment. So maybe I'll hand it back to you, David.
Thanks, Jim. And certainly we can address any questions that we have a little bit later on that. But I just wanted to kind of continue with picking up where Jim left off with the construction of this construction in general, construction of the corridor protection wall that's going to start up here. These are kind of the big areas, the big elements primary elements that we see that you will see can expect to see activity regarding for the Southwest Light Rail project in 2021. First and foremost, as Jim mentioned, corridor protection wall, it is going to take quite a long time to build this mile-long mile-long element of the project. And so the contractor is planning to get started with that this spring. As we said, it starts, one of the starting points, or the westernmost point, is just east of the Bryn Mawr station, extending out to 94. So contractor has a lot of work ahead of them for that element. They want to get started as soon as they can with that. So the residents who kind of have a view into to the rail corridor, or may be walking along the Cedar Lake Trail in that area, will certainly see activity here for the foreseeable future. We also want to just mention, I think we mentioned this at the town hall too, that the Bryn Mawr station, certainly we haven't seen a lot of activity there thus far. Last year-ish, you saw a lot of dirt getting piled up. It was a soil surcharge, a way of forming that stable soil foundation in order to construct the station, and that was, you saw that get done last year, but then not a lot of work in that immediate area since. We expect that there will be some additional activity this year. I'd say mostly focusing on pile driving, forming the foundation for walls and the pedestrian bridge that we talked about earlier, the part of the Bryn Mawr station design. So you're going to certainly hear, notice some work that's going on there when they do this pile driving work. And especially for the residents that overlook the site either from the north, the townhomes kind of near there, in Bryn Mawr, or on the Kenwood side, we plan to. That's part of our outreach strategy, and our work is to make sure people are aware of that work before it happens, so people know when pile driving is going to happen. It certainly is very noticeable and can be disruptive for folks. We also have some work, and we kind of touched on this too at the other meeting, was freight rail improvement. This is work that is included in the project and started last year. Got a lot of work done on the freight rail. I think we have a couple slides on it a little later, but there will be more work to upgrade freight rail infrastructure in the Bryn Mawr area, and that is anticipated to occur this year as well. A lot of folks want to know when we might, and I think I even saw I might have seen a question about this already posted, sidewalk and road work in that north side of the station area with Wayzata and Penn Avenue. There is certainly the potential for this type of work to be done this year. It doesn't seem to be a focus, especially the road work, but we always like to keep people prepared for the possibility that this work could be done. When it comes to road work, especially road work that involves closures, we do commit to getting plenty of notice to folks so that they can react to that and prepare for any kind of road closures and detours. Sidewalk work. We have a number of places in the project where we have kind of pedestrian improvements that extend a little farther out from the immediate station area, and sidewalk work I tell people when I talk to them that it can kind of pop onto the schedule with relatively little notice, but we certainly work with our contractor to make sure there is as much notice as possible when they're coordinating that. So again, we can prepare people for work to be done, for activities, so that people aren't surprised when they see them working. It's especially important in a place like Bryn Mawr as we move up Penn Avenue, because there are residential and business accesses in that area. So we know how important that is to minimize the disturbance and impacts in that area as we get, as we plan for that work. This is just a map showing, you might have seen if you sign up for our construction updates, this kind of map is probably pretty familiar to you. It just shows a little bit of what's going on this year. Extends out to kind of over to the Royalston area, where we certainly are going to continue work at the Glenwood Avenue bridge site, but kind of focusing on this Bryn Mawr and Bassett Creek Valley station area. It's really about the corridor protection wall, some station construction, and some of that freight rail work are kind of some primary takeaways for this group. Kind of talked about this, but one piece of this, especially with the rail corridor protection wall, we did talk about the pile driving and how that can be certainly disruptive with noise, potential vibration. If you're pretty close to the Bryn Mawr station area, I would say that's likely going to be mostly felt by, say, a couple of the businesses that are close by. But this next bullet, the weekend work in the rail corridor, this is something that we, since this work has been folded into the project with the corridor protection wall, we have done a lot of analysis in terms of how to minimize that overall impact and delay. And one way in which the contractor and the project office feel that they can really reduce that overall delay, which is really reducing impact to the community in terms of getting the project done quicker, is to work on Saturdays, specifically in this for this corridor protection wall site. And of course, work will progress up and down that site area. But I'll have a couple more slides on that in a second. But this is something that we are looking into and planning for, and we want to make sure that the community is very aware of this this potential for work on Saturdays as we move forward with construction on that corridor protection wall. And we can talk about kind of why that is in just a moment. I also want to mention this last bullet, this haul route traffic. This is also something that if you get my updates, you see that we're planning for, with this focus on the tunnel site down near Cedar Lake Parkway, near Park Siding Park. A lot of traffic is going up and down the corridor between the tunnel site and the Linden Yards area by Van Wyck Boulevard. You're going to see traffic increase significantly as we increase our activities at that site, including excavation and pouring of concrete foundations. So when we are noticing to the community what's going to happen with the tunnel, we include the entire corridor from pretty much Glenwood on down, because we know that the even just the traffic impacts and movement of equipment around is going to impact folks that are near the corridor. This traffic specifically on the concrete pour days, which will happen periodically on weekdays, probably about once every 3 to 6 weeks is what we estimate right now. But we do expect to have some extended hours in the evening in order to pour that concrete. And that's just simply because the volume of concrete that you're pouring at once in one can't be accomplished in the normal 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. construction hour day in the city of Minneapolis. We've worked through this with the city extensively to figure out how we can minimize the time spent on these activities, including utilizing multiple pumps and different methods of accessing the site, multiple paths for accessing the site. But we're still going to need a few hours in order to complete that work outside of the 7 to 6 time frame. So you will, when we notice for that work, that is, you can expect to see trucks in the corridor after 6 p.m. on those pour days, which will happen periodically. I just want to note that we are actually nearing completion of the excavation of the first cell, and so we are looking at into the near future for that first pour day. As soon as we have a date, we will certainly be sending that information out to the community at large. So just getting back to the corridor protection wall, I know that as Jim said, a lot's been discussed. This process has been ongoing for a number of years, and there was a specific process undertaken in 2017. I just want to touch on that the primary benefit here. Again, I mentioned that working that Saturday work, we don't take this lightly in terms of asking to work extended hours or on weekends, but the primary benefit here is a time savings of over 6 months of general construction activities in the area. So by working those Saturdays, we'll be able to save a pretty significant amount of time overall in getting this project done. The major activities we anticipate are earthwork, so a lot of moving soil around, preparing the site, excavation, the wall itself, the kind of piles that are going to be driven for this are going to be drilled, and then there's going to be a lot of concrete placement. Certainly there's a lot of concrete to be poured to make that wall. High vibration activities may occur in the vicinity, as we talked about, for the Bryn Mawr station and for the walls in that area. Some high vibration activities are occurring for pile driving, but the high vibration activities are not permitted on Saturdays for construction. So we're talking about if if we are conducting high vibration activities, those are during the normal working hours of 7 to 6, Monday to Friday. Just want to point out too that this site is relatively isolated. I'd say the folks kind of just west of 394 in that little stub of the corridor protection wall are definitely probably have the best view of that piece of work, but the majority of the work for this wall is going to be kind of moving east, toward I-94 and really nestled up kind of near 394, which is already a pretty noisy and active element there. Okay, just running through, we can touch on this too a little bit in Q&A, but just wanted to run through what Jim was talking about, the design history of the corridor protection wall, just showing you a little bit. We do get questions about like what happened with the CPW and how are we only hearing about it now? So we did have this process with the Bassett Creek Valley Working Group. I was not on the project at the time, but we do have folks on the call that certainly were a part of this. And in 2017, this working group was tasked with kind of, working through what this wall is and provide feedback, focused input, as the slide says, about what the wall is going to look like. I won't read everybody's names here, but you can just see that this is a group that involved membership from Bryn Mawr, as well as other communities in the area and other entities that, like the Park Board and the Minneapolis Pedestrian Advisory Committee as well, just to diversify the perspectives who are contributing that input. This work carried over from ideas from the Kenilworth landscape design process, which was also an intensive process to work through and push forward a specific design for landscaping and plantings in the Kenilworth corridor. Walking tours and public meetings were some of the ways in which this group worked out like how this wall was going to look, and some of the things they looked at included textures and graphics and plantings, kind of carrying over some of those ideas from the Kenilworth design process. Eventually, that working group's recommendations, were considered and incorporated into the design. So things like the wall pattern, the station name plate that's going to be at the Bassett Creek Valley Station, elements of vegetation, and the addition of more vegetation in places like the Bryn Mawr Station. So these features are being implemented. As Jim said, the design hasn't changed. We just want to make sure that's very clear to folks, because I think there was some questions like, because this was getting brought up in the scope of the delay, that this was somehow something new or things had been changed. Just wanted to run through these, and we kind of have these more as reference slides in case people have questions. We can look through them, but this is just some of the information. A lot of this actually was developed back in 2017, but we wanted to make sure people were seeing this, even folks that had already been through that process before, or people who had been here for the first time, seeing just kind of things that we considered and some of the results of these. So this is a rendering of the Bassett Creek Valley Station and the wall in proximity to the station platform. And this just gives you an example section of where the wall's location is in proximity to the trail and the existing, or the future light rail and existing BNSF rail. We had a bunch of different cross sections that I'm just going to scroll through relatively quickly in order to get to our Q&A, but just giving you an idea of, again, scope, visual aspects of where the wall is situated at different points in time. This is more on the west side near the Bryn Mawr Station. This kind of gives you an idea of what the wall will look like when it's done. You can, especially on that bottom slide, you can see kind of in the background what it would look like from that trail area. The wall ties into the existing pier protection that will be built with light rail under 394. And so that just shows you that. And this kind of gives you just an idea of like where the wall would be situated from Bryn Mawr Meadows. Again, this is kind of an area as we're moving out of kind of out from under 394 and into the Bassett Creek Valley area. Just shows you another cross section of how the wall is situated. This kind of gives you an idea of where it is, where the wall is situated in relation as it approaches the Bassett Creek Valley Station. And as you come up to certainly to the I-94 section, the corridor certainly changes. It narrows up considerably with the proximity to the pedestrian, the Cedar Lake trails, and grades change as the rail is kind of down below as light rail is elevated a bit. Just finishing up here with updates. This is a map that shows the areas where we expect to see some periodic freight rail improvements. And the take-home point here is that with our agreements with the freight rail companies, usually weekends are the times that are where this work is able to be completed so that rail can maintain their schedules and their service. So we do expect some potential weekend work, especially in this area, kind of as of the freight rail, the TC&W service area just south of between Bryn Mawr Station and West 21st Street, and we would certainly be communicative about noticing that to the community. As we noticed last year, some of that work certainly can be very noticeable to the surrounding community, some of the equipment that they use to upgrade that rail infrastructure. Giving you an idea, though, that it really is worth it. It is part of the project scope, and you can certainly tell the difference between the old and new freight rail track. So a good amount has been done already, but we do have some pieces still to do. I just want to, before we get into Q&A, I want to plug how to stay in touch. Our website is certainly a good source of information. Please sign up for the construction updates if you haven't already, that come out right now. They're every other week, and they are broken out into specific segments of Minneapolis, so you can kind of skip to the part that you are most interested in, or if you're interested in the entire corridor, that's great too. You are always welcome to contact me if you have any questions or issues. And I don't know why I didn't include the hotline slide, but we have our hotline number everywhere, and maybe it's at the end here, I forget, but I just want to plug that you can always call our 24/7 construction hotline, 612-373-3933, and we'll make sure that's included in a presentation that gets posted here, so that if you ever have any questions or urgent concerns, you can contact that. That's answered by a call center 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and they connect you with either project office outreach or a representative of the contractor as needed to make sure these concerns are addressed. All right. Let's go to our chat, and I know we have a good number of questions. I'm going to just start back at the top here, answer a few questions from the chat, and then pivot to any comments or questions that people have on the phones or on video as we go, and I'll rope in my colleagues certainly to be able to address some of these questions. Is there going to be a parking lot or just a drop-off? At the Bryn Mawr station, at all the Minneapolis stations, there is no parking that's being built as part of the Southwest Light Rail project. So they're passenger drop-off or walk-up stations, including the Bryn Mawr station. When do we expect to be working on road realignment in the vicinity of Penn Avenue Bridge? That is, I think we kind of touched on that road work and sidewalk work is it certainly has to be done. It is not a focus of this year, but it's certainly possible. So we don't have exact information about like when that might be occurring just now, but it would be something that we have to coordinate with whoever's roads they are, right? So with Hennepin County, City of Minneapolis, MnDOT, we coordinate closures with those entities and provide plenty of notice so that people are aware of detours and any kind of closures well before it happens. I will say that in order to build that passenger drop-off area, a road closure is programmed for that kind of Wayzata Penn intersection when that road work needs to be done. To what extent will traffic at Penn and 394 be disrupted by the construction? Also kind of addressing that with that road work answer, and certainly that more information will come once we have more clarity on a schedule for that work. Let's see. Just cycling through a couple. Landscaping, question about landscaping. How much landscaping is going to be done to minimize impacts of the stations on the area? I think we kind of touched on this, but the Kenilworth Landscaping Committee or design was kind of a special process that was done in order to kind of target these very concerns. I am going to put Ryan Kronzer, our director of design, on the spot for a second and let him just give a couple quick bullet points on the Kenilworth landscape design process and kind of where we are with it right now.
Yeah, well, thank you, David. Hi, this is Ryan. I'm the Assistant Director of Design Engineering for Southwest Light Rail. Thanks for joining us tonight. Specifically about the Kenilworth landscape design, there is enhanced landscaping from I-394 south through the Kenilworth to West Lake Street and even beyond West Lake Street for a titch. So that's a different level of landscaping. When we went through the design process with the community and the landscape architect we hired specifically for this, it was determined to use native plantings and try to enhance the natural habitats which occur along this corridor. Then when we got into the corridor protection wall design, we brought that individual landscape architect back to help us work that wall into the landscape, and we actually added some additional landscaping to help set that wall up in the perspective and keep that vision of the Kenilworth together once the wall got integrated. Each station does have landscaping around it. We have native grasses, shrubbery, decorative trees, and overstory trees, and that work with the elements that are at each station.
Awesome. Thanks, Ryan. I appreciate that. And what I'm seeing in the chat is we've certainly got a good amount of questions about design elements and station elements. I am trying to focus, just make sure we get questions answered about kind of our construction first, and but we will certainly be able to kind of approach questions for design and follow up if we don't have time to answer all the questions about design. I see a lot of design questions. One question I've seen is the Cedar Lake Parkway. I know it's kind of outside the scope of Bryn Mawr, but I think we're getting to maybe just a little bit of the larger community. And I know this is a roadway that a lot of people use, even if they don't live right near the area. Cedar Lake Parkway is planned to be closed for about 6 months later in order to construct the tunnel. We don't know exactly when that's going to happen. We've kind of tentatively said that's later this year at some point, but certainly we're keeping a close eye on how progress of the tunnel right now, how that progress proceeds, and would be kind of adjusting that schedule accordingly. And of course, just like we did when we closed Cedar Lake Parkway for, well, I think it was a few 17, 18 days, 16 days last year. There was a lot of notice given to the surrounding community to make sure people were aware of that detour. That question was kind of coupled with a concern about coordinating that with other closures, including Wayzata and Penn 394, and certainly that'll be something too that we always do look at what closures are occurring when, and trying to minimize impacts to the neighborhoods as we need to close some of these roads to complete the construction work. Let's see. Seeing some follow-up questions about the Saturday work, and yes, we'd be planning to work every Saturday at least through 2021. Certainly, we're kind of focusing on 2021 in this meeting, so that's what I'll keep it to. But the contractor would work every Saturday that they can on through 2021. That sounds like a lot, and certainly we want to talk if folks live near there. We certainly want to talk with folks about concerns regarding that work, but we are quite confident that where this work is situated in the rail corridor near the active freight rail, kind of snug up next to I-394, for the most part, that and the actual work that's going to be done will not be as impactful as one might think if you're driving down to another part of the corridor, say like the tunnel construction site, which is very in your face and very close to houses right within like 20, 30 feet. So we feel confident that construction will not be nearly as impactful, but we would be monitoring, and we've committed, as we talk with the city about working on those Saturdays, committed to like monitoring what those conditions look like as we progress with those first few Saturdays, just to make sure that those activities are kind of within the realm of our construction like noise allowances. And yes, that we got some follow-up questions there about no piling vibration work on Saturdays. That is correct. No pile driving that using the hydraulic pile drivers or the vibratory hammers that we use for some of the other elements of pile driving. Correct. Are we planning any tours this summer for up-close views of construction? I think this is just a good question to answer. And in general, with this community, with the trail continuing to be open, I think there's another question about the trail continuing, Cedar Lake Trail continuing to be open. It does afford people a way to, because there's kind of a public throughway kind of near construction activities. I noticed that people are able to go and get a pretty close look at what's going on in this area. I take that as a good suggestion. We certainly didn't have a very public like in-person presence last, but I'd be happy to talk with community members to organize some sort of tours. I think we feel confident at this point that we can mask up and socially distance and keep people safe to check out progress along certain parts of the corridor, especially in areas where there's kind of a public route where we don't need to wear special equipment or anything like that. So it's a good question, a good idea that we can kind of work through this year and certainly even into 2022. So here's a question, and Jim or Andy, I'll rope you in here on this one. Does the project in any way have anything to do with the appearance of delay with Bryn Mawr Meadows Park? That is something that I am not totally aware of, but just want to.
I'm not aware of that either, David. I
Okay.
don't think so. Really, the delay is related to our construction and what we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah. Hey, David, this is Ryan. I
Yeah.
think the question is, I'm familiar with the park board's plans to rehab Bryn Mawr Meadows Park. And I think the question is asking if our project is delaying the park board's project. And that the answer to that is no. And we have been coordinating some trail connectivity connections, but our project is not impacting the process of that.
Sounds good. I'm going to take a break from the chat just with a few minutes left. Is there anyone on a phone or on a video that has any questions or follow-up comments at this time? I don't see any hands raised, so I'll just honestly open it up in case someone has a question. Please feel free to unmute. There might be like might be a rush, but just in case anyone want to provide that.
Is this going to be able to?
Oh, go ahead. You started.
Would we be able to view this later?
Yes, this recording will be able to be viewed later. We'll be posting it on our website, and we can try to get this link out. Just make sure community members are aware of this link to get back to this video. Yep.
Great.
Absolutely. And any other questions from the video or any phone participants? I know phone folks can't see what's going on always, and I just want to give them that opportunity if they have it.
Is the video available to view separately too, or is that when it's all rebroadcast?
Yep, the video will be available, and then we also have just the PowerPoint if people just want to cycle through the PowerPoint. So I know that I just kind of breezed through those corridor protection wall slides, and people might want to get a better look at those.
And when will that be that we could when we could do this again? How soon?
Tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow morning. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I just got a text from our communications coordinator who's on the meeting with us and recording, and says he'll have it up tomorrow. Let's see. Going back to the chat, just scanning the chat. I know I'm not going to get everybody's questions answered tonight, but will the bike and walking paths still be open from Cedar Lake to downtown during construction, or will paths be closed? So right now, there is a detour in place from in this area. The detour begins at around Van White Boulevard, and we did rework that detour to make it safer with coordination with the city of Minneapolis. It used to go down Vineland and through the park down there, Loring Park, excuse me. We kind of retooled that to make it a safer and more direct path. But that detour will remain in place from Van White Boulevard over to Royalston, where the other side of the detour is. So that portion of the Cedar Lake Trail will certainly remain closed while construction is ongoing in this area with construction of the Glenwood Bridge and construction of the corridor protection wall. All of those elements kind of feed into the idea that that segment will not be available while those major construction activities are taking place. Let's see. Vita,
Hey,
I'm
David.
single. Oh yeah, go ahead.
Hey, it's Andy Collum. Just
Thanks,
wanted to
Andy.
chime in and you talked a lot earlier about closures and concurrent closures and the timing thereof. And I just wanted to reaffirm for the group that we're constantly talking to our counterparts at Hennepin County and at the city and MnDOT to coordinate these things and try to make those things work and fit together the best we can. And you talked about Saturdays, for instance, too. We're still working with the city on those. We're getting to that point where we're making that request of the city, but just wanted to let everyone know that we're not making these decisions in a vacuum, and we are considering the neighborhood and the residents and working hand in hand with our counterparts here.
I appreciate that, Andy. Thank you. It's a good reminder. and we can't say it enough, how much coordination is going into this work on all levels. So we really appreciate the city's work with us in working through these issues, and we will continue to do so as we advance work in this area. Yeah, again, folks, Bryn Mawr's been kind of quiet, but you certainly are going to see more and more activity as we go on. 2021, remember, we're talking about the corridor protection wall. We're talking about some station work, which includes some pile driving, getting those walls and station or bridge foundations started. Start talking about some freight work. And certainly those are impactful activities, and we're committed to making sure you know about them. Sometimes we can't avoid them, but we want you to know about them so that you can prepare and know that it's coming. Be prepared for it as best as possible. We have just a couple minutes. I'll offer anyone who has maybe one more question.
David, I have a concern.
Yes, Vida.
As an older single person, female, unless these stations and their accesses are really well lit at all times, there's no way that I'm going to be using any of them. And I would like to.
Great point. Brian, can I put you on the spot with lighting design?
Yes. Hi, Vida.
Hi.
So in this situation with Bryn Mawr neighborhood, most folks will probably access Bryn Mawr Station from Penn Avenue, crossing 394, on our pedestrian bridge down to stairs and elevators down to the platform. So the second you step on the Metro Transit facilities, we have design criteria for light levels. So that entire path will be lit to a sufficient level for ease of access and safety. I'm not remembering exactly what the lighting conditions are on Penn Avenue. I think there are pedestrian scale lighting on that. The intersection of Penn over 394 has lighting. It's not changing with our project there, but our facilities are very well lit, and we have cameras as well. So our lighting works with our cameras to have sufficient coverage at the stations. And that's true for every station. Bryn Mawr is the only station that has this pedestrian bridge. But Bassett Creek Valley Station, the same condition. We have pedestrian scale lighting leading up to the station platforms.
And Vita, I'll just follow up and say, and for everyone, I've copied these questions, and yours, Vita. I saw you had a couple questions about that, and I know where to find y'all. We can certainly follow up about some of that. Just get you a little more specificity there. It's a couple minutes past 6, so in respect for everyone's time, close things out. I did want to just give a quick shout out to, there are a lot of folks on this call that have been coordinating for a long time. Even though I haven't been on the project a long time, a lot of recognized names who have put a lot of time and effort in. I'll just note, it's maybe a little bit unfair to others, but Barry Shady and Karen Fredrickson for helping to organize this particular event and promote this particular event. A thank you to them and everybody else who helped to kind of promote it, and I enjoy doing these types of events. So I look forward to whether it's tours out in the corridor at some point, other opportunities to connect safely, making sure everybody respectful of everyone's safety, health and otherwise these days, but. We will certainly be in touch, and you can look for updates coming up about some of the tunnel work and some of the other, the corridor protection work and some of the major activities that are coming up, both in Bryn Mawr and the Minneapolis community overall. thank you for your time. Thank you for your effort. It is appreciated on every level. I hope you have a good night, and please follow up with me if you have any other questions or concerns that you want a little more detail about. All right, folks.